Disability Commission for St. Louis County. Then we have roll call, please.
All right, starting the roll, Linda Baker,
Here.
Luke Barber,
Here.
thank you. David Forrest notified me that he would not be present. Howard Hayes also notified me that he would not be present. Stephen Harris? No. Josh Lewis?
Yes.
Thank you. Stephanie McDowell?
Here.
Thank you. Brandon Morris? No. Sue Orton?
Here.
Thank you. Cheryl Rose?
Here.
Thank you. Gabriela Garbero?
Here.
Thank you. Sheila Sudarwala? Here. Thank you. And Robin Wallen?
Here.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We do have a quorum today.
Wonderful, wonderful. On the agenda is new members. Welcome. Have 3 new members, Sheila Suwala, Robin Wallen. Just say hi. The 3rd new member, Gabriela Barbera. Welcome. What I would like to do before we get started with our agenda, start with Sheila since she's here at the Lindbergh location. Sheila, give us a little bit about you, and we'll go around the table and quickly introduce ourselves as well. Sheila?
Well, my name is Sheila Sudarwala. I'm the Executive Director of Artist First. It is an inclusive art studio in St. Louis County in Maplewood. I am a social worker and an individual with a disability.
Welcome. Are you a social worker in any particular place?
I serve as Executive Director of a nonprofit.
Oh, that's your job, okay. That's social worker too by training. Robin, could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm Robin Wallen, and I'm actually a retired travel professional.
We can hardly hear you. Could you get to the mic?
Okay, can you hear me a little better?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't know what the problem is.
Increase your volume.
Okay, I'll try that. Okay, I've got it all the way up. Is that any better?
Well,
Is that a little better?
we're struggling with it. Dana is trying to make some changes to see if that would help.
Okay.
Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a retired travel professional. I have been in numerous consumer organizations for the blind, the National Federation of the Blind and the Missouri Council of the Blind. I currently serve on as their transportation committee chair, and I am legally blind.
Thank you, Robin. They made some adjustments. We couldn't hear you. Gabriela, you introduce yourself and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am an attorney. I practice disability law, and I also have a disability. I've been a disability advocate for a really long time. I have a blog where I talk about disability, and it's something I'm really passionate about. So I'm very happy to be here.
Do you have a private practice or do you work for a law firm?
I have a private practice. It's just me. It's a solo firm.
Thank you.
What she does have, fine. Okay, thank you. As we go along in the agenda to the new members, if you have an interest, the, just let me know. So now, I'm going to go around the table. I'm Linda Baker. I've been the chair for quite a few years. I was appointed under Buzz Westfall's administration at the beginning. So I've been with the commission since it started. I'm retired from being the executive director of the Governor's Council of Disability in Missouri, and I have been a disability rights advocate since the 80s. I have a hearing loss, and I have now cerebral palsy. So that's a little bit about me. Have you met Dana, who's our ADA coordinator? If you haven't, I'll let her introduce herself.
I'll do an introduction. My name is Dana Lancaster. I'm the staff liaison for this commission. I've been working with St. Louis County for about 9 months now. Previously working in a similar position for St. Louis City for 5 years, and before that, doing social work and working with people with developmental disabilities and some sign language interpreting as well. Very excited to have all of you here.
Okay, Cheryl.
I'm Cheryl Rose. I have a family member with a disability. My son has cerebral palsy. I've been on the commission a lot of years. And I am retired from the Missouri Commission. That's where I spent the majority.
Sue.
Okay, my name is Sue Ortman, and probably as long as Linda. I can't remember who it was when it first started, but I'm retired. Realtor with Pablo American. I'm retiring. Here today is more, but I have a daughter with a disability, and so I've always advocated for her. She has a traumatic brain injury, and other things that have occurred throughout the year, and so.
Thank you, Sue. I'll ask the people that are being virtual. Luke, Barbara, could you introduce yourself and a little bit about yourself?
I'm Luke. I'm a disability self-advocate with a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. I recently graduated from the University of Missouri St. Louis in 2022 with a bachelor's degree in public policy.
Thank you, Luke. Josh?
Hi, I'm Josh. I've been on the commission since, I guess, January of 2021. I've been a disability advocate for, honestly, probably the late 80s, early 90s. So, yeah, that's me. I'm a person in a wheelchair, so my passion is persons with mobility issues, but obviously that is not the sum total of the disabilities that I can help out with.
Thank you, Josh. Is there anybody? Oh, Stephanie. Are you there? Stephanie?
Here, hi. This is Stephanie McDowell, and I am Youth and Family Programs Manager at Paraquat, a Center for Independent Living serving St. Louis. I am also blind and happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is there anyone else that I have not? Oh, Department.
This is Steve.
Oh, Steve.
Yeah, I was late to the meeting, sorry. My name's Steve Harris. I've been on the board or on this commission for about a year now. I'm a person in a wheelchair. I've had a spinal cord injury for about 7 years. Just sort of started trying to get active in advocating for mobility and disability issues.
Thank you. Anybody else on this? Okay, so we'll move on to the agenda. The approval of the minutes. We got 2 months minutes. All right, February. Please review it, and if there's any changes, please let us know. Any changes on the February meeting? I don't see any or hear any, so who would like to make a motion to approve the February minutes?
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Move on to the March minutes. Please review. Any comments or changes? So I don't hear or see any changes. So, who would like to make the motion to approve the March meeting? It's the same 2 people. Okay, thank you very much. On to my agenda. My report. We've been in conversation with Lisa Clancy, councilperson, assistant rep, about where we want to go. We are going to have meeting of the Universal Task Force meeting after this meeting. Discuss the brochure that the Home Builders Association proposed for the education, and they agree that we can make some changes, so we're going to talk about that. Meanwhile, Lisa, Councilperson Clancy, is supposed to draft a piece of legislation, but I have not seen it yet. And I don't know if she's sharing this with the other council members on the disabled committee. Hopefully we'll find out soon. That's my report. I'm gonna move on to ask if Chair had anything to add to that.
No, but just for the new members, we have been working for several years on a universal design ordinance for St. Louis County. We had drafted a proposed ordinance based on research that we did. We met with the home builders. They, of course, do not want an ordinance. They are proposing a educational process. They want to give everybody a brochure that talks about the features of universal design, and the home builder, the home buyer, and the salesperson both be required to sign documents saying that these things have been offered, That's their proposal. So we have taken a look at the brochure, not happy with that, totally happy with that, I should say. So we, Dan Rosenberg from the Older Adult Commission, who is an architect, made some those changes to get us started. And so we're going to be meeting at this meeting to talk about it. And yeah, so we'll just have to see where this. That actually the homeowners really using this brochure initially, but what they would like to see, so they say, no reason to doubt, is a video that is shown so that there is no, both the salesperson and the home buyer have to get right from, in a video. So that's something to be developed at some point.
I'd like to add, I want the video to show that provide disabilities, not just people in wheelchair or old people. Excuse me. But so I like to see a person who has a visual impairment, a person who might need an alert system because down here. I like to see a variety.
I'd like to see more of the disabilities. I'd like to see all kinds of people who can benefit from universal.
Okay, we'll move on to the ADA coordinator report.
Yeah, this is Dana Lancaster again. I've been working recently with the Division of Personnel or the Personnel Director regarding our reasonable accommodation procedure. It looks like it was not updated after the human resource functions were centralized, which happened in 2022. So because there's been a change in the way that human resources operates in the county, I'm proposing some updates to that procedure to align better with the way things are currently working. Also, in March, I was working collaboratively with IT to expand the information about web accessibility that is part of their training materials and the training materials that our department staff who post online doing as well. The county utilizes a lot of different training methods and different tools. We also held a virtual training going over one of the web accessibility tools that they can use to help check different websites and applications to make sure that it's as accessible as we want it to be. My notes for our upcoming May meeting are that Amy Ellis is going to share regarding the functions of community development. She wasn't able to do that at this meeting today. I've also contacted the Taxi Cab Commission regarding having a representative attend our May meeting. I've not had a response to my most recent emails to them, but I will keep trying to get in contact with them. I did want to note that we have another agenda item later with the Board of Elections materials. I did have some of my own thoughts on things that stated there, so I'll be really excited to hear what kind of input you all have that we can share with them as well. That's it for me for today. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I know the personnel matters are confidential, but is there any way we could get an idea of maybe how many people are requesting accommodations? Maybe whatever information that is allowed.
Yeah. What we do as kind of a front line is to make sure that all employees understand that if they need something to be successful in their job, that they should feel welcome and free to bring that up with their immediate supervisor. So anything that be an adjustment that you would routinely make for an employee. Maybe I want to sit away from the windows because the bright light is, I need a fan or a heater in my workstation. Those types of adjustments, maybe flexible schedule. Supervisors have the power to make those changes and kind of our front. Where things might come to me is when it's a little bit more tricky and more complicated. That's it. But yeah, at any given time, probably have, 20 to 30 people that I'm working with on different situations, and, making sure that they have everything. Ma'am?
Is that 20, 30 people a year?
Well, the thing is, for most people, it's not going to be, I need this one thing and then I don't ever need anything again. People's conditions and situations evolve, their work evolves and changes. And so I would call those active situations where we're currently trying to make sure that everything is settled and that they have what they need, and then it may be inactive for a while. As long as we're all still human and working, there's always going to be things that we need.
Speaking of human, is there any discussion how AI is coming into forward that process?
I think I mentioned at a previous meeting that I had taken a webinar that was put on by the EEOC regarding the use of AI with employment, and how I spoke with my colleagues in human resources about things that we can look out for and keep in mind, ensure that the use of AI will not be anything that could incorrectly screen out a person with disability or disadvantage them in any way.
Very good. Anybody have questions or comments for Dana? I should have gone over thank you, Dana, for your report. For the new members, just to know some rules, after we do the roll call, and because I use thought service, and another member, David Force, as well, please, one voice at a time. Raise your hand. It should be an icon for you to raise your hand if you want to speak. And if it's a lengthy discussion on something that's not on the agenda and the time runs out, we'll take notes on that, and most likely it will be on the next month's agenda. We do have a public comment section, and we would like them to contact Dana before coming, and let us know what they want to discuss. And again, to keep those comments to the point. We would give them plenty of opportunity to share what they want us to know. So again, thank you for your work, Dana. Glad to see that things are updated with the human resource section, because that evolves. Hope that county employees feel welcome in asking for their accommodations. So we go on to old business, older adult commission update.
That's me too. Got my notes in, so I apologize, and what I'll try to do is summarize some things that they talked about, send them to you, send them out in the next minutes, maybe.
Happy to do so.
But I do want to say that to the new members, the Older Adults Commission, we have some of the similar issues in the sense that they're aging in place, they want to learn about that. So very involved in the universal design criteria. Dan is the new chair of the commission, and he's been working very hard with us, developing some good guides, I should say, as well as, maybe perhaps the ordinance will be established. They also talk a lot about the Grand Pads, which was a program, I think about a year or so ago, using some monies that developed small computers for people who have to be at home and keep in touch with the community. And it's very, very successful nationally. So they're working to continue that prescription process for older adults. There's a criteria for income and that sort of thing. We're also talking about some of the funding sources for senior programs that will get going. Do you remember the Now from Aging Ahead mentioned that most of their aging senior centers are up and going, but they still have issues with transportation. Anything else? Questions? What are these aging centers? Senior center? Yeah, Aging Ahead is the what do they call it? The aging agency for suicide, and they have a senior center. So and people can go to them, just activities and things like that, and scattered through.
It used to be wasn't that called Business Agency for Aging?
Yes. Yeah, they changed their name. They changed the name. It's role is the. So she's often involved. They were also talking about the master plan state. They have people on that that are very involved.
Well, thank you, Sue, for your report. If you had any additional, just let Dana know she can work with that in minutes. Okay, new business. All of you should have received the voters guide that the poll workers. Oh, Luke, you have your hand up. What's your question?
Hand was actually up earlier. When Deanna was talking earlier, I wanted to make sure that when she was talking with the HR stuff, that she reaches out to. Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is trying to remind Deanna Lancaster, Carol Flood, who was the previous ADA coordinator before her, I know moved to HR and some of that stuff to try to look at some of that issue firsthand. So it might be a partner opportunity where Deanna and Carol can kind of work together on.
Thank you, Luke, for your suggestion.
You're just speaking about personnel. Okay, so take a look at the reference guide poll workers have. And let me ask this. Has the commission had an opportunity to review this?
Ask everybody at the last meeting to do that, so we can discuss this.
So, I looked at the curbside program. But it doesn't tell me, this is for the poll work. How does Richard notify poll workers that I'm there?
There is nothing in there about how the individual is to notify the poll workers curbside voting. I did notice that I was looking at on the petitions, there was a poll worker that was sitting outside watching. I don't know if that's what he was, if he was watching to see if people needed curbside, but he was sitting outside.
He or she was visible.
No, he didn't have a sign. But if somebody had driven up, he would have. I should have asked him. I didn't ask him.
And I didn't see anybody in my post side. So, yeah, I saw people, they all there for different campaigns. So, they could just have a rotation for the students or poll workers, something, just pop in like every hour. And it doesn't have to be this person. That's the feedback I would get. They hear, there's gotta be someone, rotation.
I think I remember previous, presentation that to have a poll worker, you have to have one from each party. So it's not just one, it's two.
That is when they vote.
Yeah.
Yes, that's, we need at least a minimum of one
They're like a runner.
to go in and out.
In other words, somebody pulls up in a car, somebody's sitting there as the poll worker side person, and they go in and they tell the poll worker from both parties, okay, take their, is that right?
Ideally, we would like to see one individual to, and that's like the voting side I was in, it was elementary school. So, I didn't see if there was handicap spot. But it's a circle drive, and the polling side's kind of back of the school. So someone might have to come to the front to check out if there is anybody there. That's why the campaign workers notify them. So that situation, somebody needs to be visible at the front, and it doesn't have to be the same person. It could be a rotation. Arabs and Red have stated it's difficult to find workers, and they are incorporating a high school program. I think they get credit to be a volunteer program. So still the answer is some kind of individual or signage like phone them. Ideally at that school, it would be nice to have a sign. And if we need curbside voting, call us. Because of the sidewalk parking, it's not visible to the door.
I don't think having a person, physical person, is practical whatsoever. It's too hard. They're having a hard enough time getting. If they got a huge influx of students, maybe so. I think that if we're going to pursue this with them, we should be looking at the side. And a central number where only one person needs to be monitoring that number. That person then can call the individual polling sites.
I thought that was Dove when they came, that they would want to follow up on that.
Well, maybe they will. I mean, this was a really small election, so, maybe they're going to. I mean, we should check with them and see. Certainly by August, big election somehow needs to be resolved. And yes, that, look, guys, we see your hands. on the materials that they sent out, did they, and I don't, they sent out to everybody, just talk about her design?
In the materials that were called voter service, it talks a little bit more about the customer service aspect. And what it says there about the curbside voting, it says, if a person with a physical disability is unable to enter the polling place, he or she is to be processed by using the curbside poll pad and printer. A bipartisan team of workers must perform this task.
No, thank you, but what I meant was the Board of Elections sent out stuff, sent out a big brochure for the last election, with even a little thing with dates, all voting. I assume that there was something on there about curbside voting. I'm just wondering how to, a method to make sure people know about it. Because the polling place I was at, it was long from the parking, the door, and, you know, there was an elderly gentleman who was going very slowly and said something about, that's a really long. And
I had that a while back. So, so do you want to follow up with Ed? Let him know. We want to follow up with signage.
well, there might be other things. Excuse me, there might be some other things.
Yes, Luke, Luke,
We can't hear you.
Looking at the minutes from that meeting, I thought we had talked about a hotline with signage. And then two, a lot of polling places this year were actually closed or not used this year. There's lots of construction at many municipal city halls right now. A lot of them have gotten hit with ADA compliance issues recently. And so they're trying to update those. And so those historically have been polling places. And so I know that their lists for this cycle, this election year, is going to be much smaller as those construction projects develop and are being completed.
I think I trusted about Stephanie and Sheila, Robin. So you all have visual issues. What's been your experience in trying to? Or what there was.
This is Stephanie.
Yeah,
For me trying to figure out where I would need to go within the building to vote can be challenging. And then once I do get there, just having if there is audible voting machine, just having somebody that knows how to get that set up so that I'm able to use it and get in and out just like everybody else wants to do.
so you can benefit from a phone number too. If you had a phone number you could call, you could ask, is my voting site at the edible voting machine? Will there be someone tell me how to get there? So you can benefit from a phone
yeah,
call.
you could
I feel like I would.
ask for help.
Yeah, I feel like I would for sure.
Sheila, did you have any thing to add? Robin?
Yes, this is Robin. I honestly am very frustrated when I go try to vote for a couple of reasons. I started voting absentee because twice I went to voting locations where they either could not find the machine because the accessible machine was never pulled out, or the poll worker didn't know how to use the machine, which is really frustrating because those machines should be out, and I had literally paid cab fare both ways to go to vote and was unable to vote. So I think the phone number is a good idea because I think then, among other things, you can make sure that there is an actual machine that you can use. And also, I think navigating to the machines can be very tricky because most of the polling places tend to be in places that are not easy to get around in if you're not familiar with them.
Thank you, Robin.
Oh, Robin, how long ago was that?
I actually stopped going a few years ago. I'm gonna say maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I did go one time to a local polling place since then, but I had to take a neighbor with me, and they actually did not have the accessible machine, so she ended up helping.
Okay.
Stephanie?
The reason I ask is that we have had the board here, and I just wondered, they may have made some changes, positive changes, but it still sounds like this phone number would be very helpful to a number of people. Even if they could just,
And
yeah,
some,
text number. Yeah.
but I do want to say in this guide, they have like a little window, it says, remember, include a permanently saverless application with the materials given to the curbside voter. Voter is not required to complete the form. This is just a courtesy. So I'm bringing that up. They do have this, as like Robin said, she had phones with absentee voter. So that's okay if it's a choice. If there are people who want to do their patriotic duty by actually going to a polling site that day. So I think I hear the consensus is signage and such a phone number that they can contact. A lot of people, whether there's a mobility issue, vision impairment, they should be able to, or if they have need help with the language. So Stephanie, did you want to add something?
I was just going to add to what Robin said. I know that one of the times that there was a voting machine there, an audible voting machine, that I was really made to feel like I wasn't welcome. I first had to wait for them to find somebody who knew how to use it, and then as I was using the voting machine, they're telling people, oh, well, you have to wait because we have somebody here who's blind using the audible voting machine. And that wasn't good.
I think that's an important point. We've got two commissioners ran into a problem. Sheila, have you been in that one? Yeah. So we've got two commission members that also had issues with getting the audible voting machine working. Shame on that. So I think there's 3 points: signage, phone number, making sure the article voting machine is working, at least have one polling worker know how to use it. And this information about getting a permanently disabled list application is okay. It should be a choice.
How are we gonna convey this to the board of elections? Are we gonna write them a letter? So, how are we going to convey to the board that we've reviewed the materials they sent and these are what we or want them to do, sorry.
I don't have Eric's email. Email him, say that we reviewed it. It's a letter I could attach, a letter that I have to send it to Dan and get the, what do you call it, the logo. So, yes.
Okay, so let's work together, you and I,
Work on
a letter that can to both of the directors of elections.
Yeah, be sure and thank them for sharing the materials. How's that
to
helpful?
both Red Stream.
Heritage.
To be correct. Thanks, man.
FEY.
This is Robin.
Yes, Robin?
I just wanted to add one last thing to what Stephanie was saying. She is very right. When you do go to use those machines, that you are made to feel rather put on the spot, not always welcome. And honestly, the big problem with the voting absentee, at least in this state, we still don't have accessible absentee voting. So for those of us that are legally or totally blind, we still are not able to cast a actual secret ballot without somebody that can read it. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. So going is always better.
Thank you, Robin.
So wait, Robin, just so, you mean if you go to the Board of Elections on a non-voting day to cast a ballot, it's not secret, you're still gonna have people there to help you fill it out?
No, I'm actually speaking about the absentee, voting absentee. Absentee ballots in the state of Missouri, if they're sent to you, even if they're sent to you, they are in regular print. They are not available in any type of accessible format, which is popular now in a lot of states.
Okay, thank you. I never thought of that.
So, which, are you looking at Whale? Robin?
I'm looking at Braille or even large print because the actual ballots are actually pretty small print. I know for me, I have to really magnify them to use them. My other half is totally blind and I have to read those for him because they are not accessible. And we would honestly rather be able to go to the polls, but quite honestly, if they don't have the machines up and running and if they're not working correctly, a lot of times it's not worth the effort.
That is really good testimony.
When I vote in person,
When you request an absentee ballot, can there be an option to request the information to be sent in large print?
No, there is not.
But could there be?
There could be. There absolutely could be. And personally, I think that it wouldn't just benefit people that are low vision, but people that are seniors who probably need that just as much. And there really should be an option to also get everything in accessible format, which would be Braille or whatever needs to be done.
Is there, and my second question, Is there an accessibility checklist that is done at each polling place, each polling site prior to polls opening?
I don't know right now if they do. Back in '84. The reason I know it was '84, I was present with my youngest daughter. I went, that's the city. I went to one polling site after another in the city. Can't speak for that, but I remember in '84, we encouraged them to do that. So you would think, County will pick it up, but I don't know.
Well, we know, you and I know somebody who is a polling judge.
Yeah.
We can ask if they have a checklist, and if not, that could go in our suggestion.
I no,
Cassie's.
Luke, go ahead.
I know that in conversations with Eric Fay and Rick Stream, that they supposedly were supposed to be doing some building and barrier observation kind of checks and walkthroughs previously to listing polling places. I know that they're trying to work on sort of this accessibility checklist. I don't know if it's actually been built exactly, but I know that there's plans in the work that they're trying to fix this kind of stuff and work on it. What I find interesting is that on the absentee ballot, they don't have the absentee, but if you go in person, you ask them to print a large print, they will. It's sort of weird in that regard. So I know they have the capability to do the large print, but I think it's just some of that communication of need.
I think it's just a matter of publicizing. You can ask for that request. We talk about accommodation your work, accommodation for your polling. If you need accommodations to vote, please contact.
Well, I guess when you request an absentee ballot, this form could have a checklist for that. But if you're on the permanent list now, you'd have to go back and add that because they're just going to send you what they've always sent you.
So a lot of older people who have vision impairments, you know, you're not just talking about older people who want to vote, and a lot of them do not know about that absentee ballot. So that's a really good idea, is to offer that. But I also think on that form, it needs to have, you need a special accommodation. If you need large print, you need braille, you need to make sure that they know that there's accommodations that need to be given so that people vote.
I have Steve Harris, hand up, please.
Hello. This was with accessibility. I vote primarily, by mail. But one of the main reason I vote by mail is because of parking at my.
We can't hear you. Do it
Can you
over
not hear?
again.
Can you not hear me?
We can
Okay.
hear you, just please start over again.
Oh,
Start
okay.
over again, speak clearly.
Okay. I vote by mail, but primarily my main accessibility issue is with parking. When I get at a polling location, I use a van with side accessibility, and I have trouble being able to find a parking space, which is why I moved to voting by mail almost completely. That's been my main accessibility issue with voting. I can get in and I can do things once I can find a parking space. Also, I was going to note on the documents, the permanent application for mail-in voting. I know Missouri changed their law last year with having, and this particularly applies to the upcoming primary election where I think you have to go and declare your party so you can vote in the primary, vote for people in the primary. And I noticed it didn't have it on there, and I don't know if that's something that we have to look at pointing out to people somehow.
I think any, you brought up a form, whether it's the primary or anything, anytime you need accommodation, whether the information, online information, video information should stay. If you need accommodation such as large print or parking, please contact this number. And that means the person that set that number need to have their ducks in a row, because I can see them being flooded with a lot of calls. So again,
The Steve, are you talking about the presidential primary caucuses?
The primaries in August, it didn't used to be where you had to declare your party before going to a primary. You would just, you'd have all the choices and you would choose whichever party you wanted to vote for. But after August last year, they changed where you have to actually go to a website and declare your party. So that way you can vote on every other issue except for the national election issues in the primary. And if you haven't declared your party, that's the way I understand it anyway. And I notice you don't have to do that on the permanent disability application.
You do not have to declare a party to vote in the primary. For the presidential primary, that was the state of Missouri. No, the state of Missouri legislature asked the primary voting, left it to the parties. So the Democratic Party had to run their primary, Republican Party had to run their primary. And the board of Elections wasn't involved in that. Now there's a bill going through the legislature now to reinstate the presidential primary in August like we've always had. But you don't have to declare a party when you go to the polls. You have to ask for a ballot.
Okay, that's not the way my brother-in-law is. He serves in the Missouri House, and that's what he told me. So that's why I was basing that information on.
Yeah.
But that law was changed in August of last year, is what he told me.
time. Okay, we've got two more people here. Sheila has been waiting patiently.
Steve, thank you for sharing about your experience. When you spoke about parking, is it lack of accessible parking or is it lack of the number of accessible parking spaces?
Well, I voted at the place that I go. There's really only 3 accessible spots, and none of them are van accessible, really. So generally, I've not been able to vote there unless I go with my wife or something, and she drops me off. And then I went to the county election offices and still had trouble finding spots that I could do there at Northwest Plaza. So without parking, way away and having, enough room to get out of my van. So
if there were an accessibility checklist for each polling site, that then those results were shared. One of the criteria could be how many accessible parking spots are there and the type of accessible parking spots. So that, first of all, I think we should just make sure every polling site is accessible. But for the voter, if there was a way for them to see what site might best fit their needs.
Steve, where do you vote?
Hazelwood, City Hall.
It's Wood City Hall and there's no van parking there?
Well, there's side access, but there's not the wider van access. And I mean, this is a problem everywhere, not just not just at city halls, but so it's the spots that they have are not generally wide enough for my van to have its ramp deploy out the side, unless there's nobody else parking. So
Have you made an ADA complaint?
no.
Is that something you want to do? Like to do?
I don't. No, I haven't thought about it, but
And the reason I ask that is you're not the only person that goes to Hazelwood City Hall. I mean, and not
I
just
know.
for voting. I mean, it should be accessible for everyone.
And the city hall should have a van accessible spot with the stripes. If you don't want to contact City Hall, you can make a plan to the Zoning Human Rights Commission.
Mhm.
That's all online. Okay, we had Gabby who wants to speak. Gabby,
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
go Richard.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if you could hear me. I remember in 2020, this was a big project with the ACLU of Missouri, was making sure that absentee voting was fully accessible. I worked there that summer and I remember that was one of their main projects, and I wonder if they're still working on it or if they know that it's not really accessible still. And I'm just wondering if anybody knows about that legislation. If not, I can look it up, but I remember they were very, very focused on it that summer. Does anybody know?
Remember that. Do you have someone you can follow up with ACLU?
Yeah, I can do that.
Well, why don't you follow up on
Okay.
that? And for me, if you hear something, email. Then I'll ask email.
Sure.
Thank you. Any, so we got a lot of things that we might add to this letter. Thank you for all of your input. Is there any, we'll move on to public comments. Do we have anyone virtually for public comments? Okay, I don't hear, see. We will call the meeting to adjourn. Make a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn. Similar to that.
All right. Bottom situation.
And the next scheduled meeting is May 3rd, typical time.
May 13th. Okay. Thank you very much for attending both virtually and in presence. See you on May. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So.
See you then.
And I can email it to you as well.
Thank you. Either one can just.
Oh, yeah.
Next slide.